What's up? So I'm recording this while I walk over to the gym. Just have a kid, so I'm not driving to work for a few minutes, but I don't want to get too behind on this stuff. So let's see. We're talking about X-Men. All right, so we just finished with the whole kind of Magneto thing from the early 60s, from the 60s, 70s kind of stuff, the original time. And he got taken away by the Stranger. So at the end of that last kind of arc, we have Professor X being like, oh no, something amiss, something crazy is going to happen, something much more dark and evil. And we find that out to be the Juggernaut. So for those of you not familiar with the X-Men, the Juggernaut is Professor Xavier's not half brother, like stepbrother, right? So then in this issue, in the first issue, we just learn about. We see the Juggernaut is unstoppable. So Professor X is like, hey, create all these traps to slow him down. The X-Men create all these traps, and then the Professor's like, all right, let me tell you about this guy while he slowly works his way to where we're at. So he talks about how, like, his dad worked at Los Alamos. They call it something else, I don't remember, which is where the nuclear testing occurred for World War II. And that is how Charles was born with his, like, superpowers. And that, we learn in these kind of early issues, I don't know if it's come up with the rest of them yet, but all these people are like somewhat associated with the Los Alamos kind of stuff. And the radiation is what caused mutations, and that's why they all have their powers. So, but what happened was his dad died, and then a friend of his dad's kind of like moved on in with Charles's mom because she was wealthy and such, and then he became like obsessed with like doing research, and the mom at that point was like, oh, you're just using me for my money and stuff, and there's nothing I can do because I'm a woman in the 60s. And so, but then she dies, and so now this guy becomes like, Charles becomes like his ward, because until he comes of age, he can't get access to the vast wealth. And then Kane, Marco, who's this guy's son, he comes to visit, and then there's like some shenanigans, and the lab goes up into fire. And then this guy, Dr. Marco, who married his mom and was taking care of Charles, he like does the first unselfish thing of his entire life, quote the comic, by dying to rescue his son and Charles. And that leaves Charles kind of tied up with Kane, kind of taking care of him financially and stuff. Anyway, so this made Kane kind of angry, but it's like, whatever. So the next thing we find out is that they were both serving in Vietnam or Korea. Shoot, I think it was Vietnam. No, I think get my dates right. 250. Yeah, it could have been Vietnam. It just depends on whatever. Anyway, so Vietnam or Korea, they're over in like the East, the Orient, if you will, fighting. And then there's some stuff happening, and Kane like runs into this cave, and Charles runs in after him. And then Kane like sees this. It's like the bands of Siderek or something, and that turns him into the Juggernaut, but then the whole mountain like collapses on top of him, and Charles is like, oh my goodness, someday he'll come out and he'll be pissed because I wasn't able to save him or something. It seems kind of nebulous. Anyway, but that's what happened. So then the Juggernaut by this point, we get back and forth. He like pops up, and the X-Men can do nothing, and he's like, I am here, Juggernaut, to get my revenge on my brother Charles. And it's like, dun dun dun, that's the end of this issue. So I'm going to see what happens next. So this is going to be a short arc. We're just going to talk about the Juggernaut because this next issue kind of deals with that. And if you've ever seen the old X-Men TV series, which a lot of people have, you know that the way they beat the Juggernaut is by taking his helmet off and then Xavier mind blasting him, which, God, it's like the 15th time in 14 issues where they've done this maneuver. This one's issue is a little fun. So the X-Men just fight the Juggernaut, and they don't do very well, and there's a lot of like back and forth, them trying to do different things to fight him and to defeat him and distract him. And Professor Xavier goes to Jean Grey, and they go summon with his mind, what's his name, Human Torch. And Human Torch comes, and he helps. But in reality, what goes on is that Beast gets up on Juggernaut's grill and just is like pounding away at his helmet and kind of loosening it up. And then Human Torch comes just to have a cameo, essentially, because he just like flies around and then like gives him like a light flash so that Angel can fly down really fast and tear the helmet off. And once the helmet's off, Professor Xavier's like, ba-dam! And knocks him out. And then Human Torch is like, wow, that was really impressive. What now? And he's like, well, we're going to give him over to the authorities, and they should be able to handle it now that he doesn't have a helmet on. Okay, sure. I mean, the helmet is literally just designed, essentially, to protect him against mental attacks, so I don't know what the government's going to do, but that's what we're going to go with, I guess. It's like more Professor Xavier's like long-term not thinking correctly kind of stuff. So that's fun. I think that's, but that, yeah, it's mostly just the fighting of the Juggernaut and chit-chatting about that. Oh, Professor Xavier erases Human Torch's memory of everything because that's what he does. And so yeah, I think that's the end of the Juggernaut arc. Just 2 issues that deal with him, bring the Human Torch in a little bit, and doesn't really establish too much with the X-Men. So it's just the Juggernaut exists. Here's some past information about Charles Xavier. Kane Marco, for some reason, who's the Juggernaut, just really hates Xavier and thinks killing him is going to do something for him, even though it seems like Charles... And then Charles is like bemoans not being kinder to him, I guess, or wishing they could have been friends or something. And yeah, that's about it. Cool. Catch y'all later.